Good day, students. Good day, everyone. My name is Mr. Emmanuel Omori. So we're going to be doing mathematics today, and the topic we will be looking at is quadratic equation, like you can see on the board, quadratic equation. Okay. Now, we have several other types of equation. For a quadratic equation, it is an equation that carries this form. It carries this form: ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. That means a quadratic equation must have an unknown raised to power 2 and another unknown raised to power 1. Of course, you know that if anything is raised to power 1, I don't need to put the 1 because anything raised to power 1 is still that thing. So if you have x raised to power 1, it's still the same as x. It's like saying 2 raised to power 1 is still the same as 2. So if it is raised, since it's raised to power 1, I don't need to put 1 there. When 1 is not put there, so it's the same thing as x raised to power 1. So you have x raised to power 2 here, and then you have x raised to power 1. And then this one has x raised to power 0. But also, I don't need to put the x raised to power 0 because we know that x raised to power 0 is 1. Anything raised to power 0 is 1. 5 raised to power 0 is 1. Anything raised to power 0 is 1. So if I put c times x raised to power 0, is like saying c times 1, which is still going to give me c. So it means I don't actually need to put the x raised to power 0 there, but it still means the same thing as c x raised to power 0. And this one means the same thing as x raised to power 1. And this one is x raised to power 2. So you can see the way the power is decreasing from power 2 to power 1 to power 0. So you will have x raised to power 2, x raised to power 1, x raised to power 0. So you can see how the power is decreasing. Okay, if you move this way, so from 2 to 1 to 0. So now, a quadratic equation is an equation whose highest power is 2. That means the highest power is 2. If the highest power is more than 2, it is not a quadratic equation. If the highest power is less than 2, it is not a quadratic equation. So when you are given a question on quadratic equation, nobody will tell you this is a quadratic equation. So you need to identify and know that this is a quadratic equation so you can know how you can go about solving it. So you can see the highest power here is 2. Why this one is 1 and this one is x to the power 0, x to the power 1, x to the power 2, like that. So that's quadratic equation. Then you also observe that I put ABC. You can observe the ABC there. The A there is what the name we give to the coefficient of x2. That's the coefficient of x2, we call it A. Coefficient of x1, we call it B. Coefficient of x0, we call it C. A coefficient is a number attached to the unknown. So whatever is attached to the unknown is our coefficient. So you can see A is attached to x squared, so that's A is the coefficient of x squared. You can see B is attached to x, so that means B is the coefficient of x. Then C is attached to x raised to power 0, so that means C is the coefficient of x raised to power 0. So the coefficient of x raised to power 2 is A. Coefficient of x raised to power 1 is B. Coefficient of x raised to power 0 is C. So that is one of the things you should know. You should be able to identify quadratic equation by checking its highest power. If the highest power is 2, then it's a quadratic equation. So once you have now known that this is a quadratic equation, then you can begin to now solve it as a quadratic equation. So now, next thing is now to think of the formula and choose whichever formula you can, or whichever method you can use to solve it. There are 4 ways you can solve quadratic equation. You can see it on the board. The first one is factorization method. Okay, then we also have the second one, which is completing the squared method. And then we have the third one, which is the formula method. Then we have the fourth one, which is the graphical method. But this one will require graphs, so we don't need to look at it now, since we're not dealing with graphs now. So these are the 3 ways or 4 ways of solving a quadratic equation. So I have a question here on the board, which is x to the power 2 minus 3x minus 10 equals to 0. Now, question, is that a quadratic equation? Yes. Why is it a quadratic equation? You can see the highest power is 2. The power of x is 1, the power of x is 2. We don't have another x with a higher power. So that means this is a quadratic equation. So this is a quadratic equation. So I can solve it using any of the methods I choose. So I will show you how to solve using these 3 methods. I'll just solve this question using these 3 methods. And any method I use to solve it will give me the same answer. Whether you use factorization or completing the square or formula method or even graphical method, you will get the same answer with you solve it correctly. So let's look at the first method, which is factorization method. Factorization method. Factorization. So let me bring out my equation, which is x to the power 2 minus 3x minus 10 equal to 0. Now I want to solve this question using factorization method. Now if you look at this, you'll discover this one is a coefficient. Coefficient of x squared. What do we call the coefficient of x squared? A. we had said the coefficient of x squared is a, x raised to the power 2 is a. So, and if you look at this question, it doesn't have coefficient. You can't see the coefficient. And of course, you know in maths, if you can't see, if no coefficient is written there, it means the coefficient is 1. Because I can write 1a is actually the same thing as just writing a. So I don't need to put the 1. So good. So the coefficient of x squared, if there's no coefficient here, it means the coefficient is 1. So our a is 1. The coefficient of x squared is 1. And then our b, the coefficient of x raised to the power 1 is minus 3. Is minus 3. Now don't make the mistake of just writing 3, because if you write just 3, you are wrong. The coefficient of x is not just 3, it's minus 3. This minus belongs to the 3. So you bring out minus 3. So the coefficient of x is minus 3. And the coefficient of x, we call it b. So that means our b is minus 3. And then this one represents the coefficient of x raised to the power 0. And the coefficient of x raised to the power 0, we call it c. And what's that coefficient? Don't call it 10. If you put 10, you're not correct. You will make mistakes. So you have to give it its minus, its negative sign. The coefficient of the c is minus 10. That means the coefficient of x raised to the power 0 is minus 10. So from this question, our a is 1, our b is minus 3. Now c is minus 10. Good. It's minus 10. Now, in using factorization method, you're going to look at two numbers that when you multiply will give you your c. And at the same time, when you are not multiplying it, you're either adding or subtracting, should give you b. So I'm looking for two numbers that when I multiply will give me minus 10. And when I'm not multiplying will give me minus 3. For example, what two numbers can give me minus 10? What two numbers can give me minus 10? And at the same time will give me minus 3 when I'm not multiplying. Now looking at 10, for example, I know I can get 10 from multiplication like 10 times 1. I can get 10 from multiplication of numbers like 5 times 2, because 10 times 1 is 10. 5 times 2 is also 10. Now, of these possible multiplications, I will choose the one that can give me what I'm looking for here. Now, if you look at 10 times 1, there's no way you can get 3 from 10 times 1. 10 times 1 is 10. If I remove the multiplication sign, there's no way I can get 3 here. So I can get 3. Even if I put plus or I put minus, there's no way 10 and 1 can give me 3 by either adding or subtracting. So obviously, that tells me that even though 10 times 1 can give me 10, there's no way it can give me 3, not to talk of minus 3. So that cancels this option. So this option is not possible. It can't give me what I'm looking for. Okay, because I'm looking for a number that when I multiply give me minus 10, and when I remove the multiplication sign, it will give me minus 3. Now let's look at the second option. 5 times 2 can give me 10. Now, since I know that 5 times 2, if you look at the number, you can, by looking at it, you can know the number that can give you 10 and number that can give you 8, and you can know whether, if you are not multiplying, it can give you 3. 5 times 10 can give me, 5 times 2 can give me 10. And again, if I'm not multiplying, it can give me 3. So 5 times 10 is 10. And if I'm not multiplying, I'm either adding, or if I'm subtracting, I can get 3. So looking at this number, it means I can get 10, I can get 3. So now, your work now will be to attach the right signs. Attach the right signs to 5 and 2, so that it can give you minus 10 when you are multiplying, and so that it can give you minus 3 when you are not multiplying, when you remove the multiplication sign. So if I look at this number now, I say, okay, if I put plus here and I put plus here, that means I attach plus to 5, plus to 2. That won't give me what I want, because at the end of the day, plus 5 times plus 2 will give me plus 10, because plus times plus is plus. Okay, remember that plus times plus is plus, and plus times minus is minus, and minus times plus is minus, and minus times minus is plus. So my plus times plus is plus, and I'm looking for minus 10. 5 times 2 is 10. Do I have to? Now, remember I said, haven't arrived at this step now. Okay, you have now arrived at this step where minus 5x plus 2x is now replacing our minus 3x here. So that means I have 4 terms now. I have, this is the first term, this is the second term, this is the third term, this is the fourth term. I have 4 terms. I have first term, x is equal to 2, second term minus 5x, the third term plus 2x, and the fourth term minus 10. So now, from at this point now, I'm going to factorize. I'm going to introduce a bracket. I'll take the first two terms, which is x raised to the power 2 minus 5x. I'll bring the first two terms, bring out what is common between the first two terms. What is common between x raised to the power 2 and minus 5x? Now you can see there is x here and there's also x here. So you can find x in the first term and the second term. So that means what is common in the first two terms is x. So that which is common, I bring it out of the bracket, which is x here. And then the rest will be inside the bracket. When I remove x here, like we have said, from this step, we have now arrived at this step. Remember, the first thing first, look for two numbers that will multiply to give you 10 minus 10, that will, if you're not multiplying, should give you minus 3. Okay, and we have gotten the two numbers, which we got and found out to be minus 5 and plus 2. And now once you have gotten the numbers, those numbers, they now replace your minus 3x here. So in place of minus 3x, you have now take the minus 5x plus the 2x. Okay, now having gotten this step now I have 4 terms. I have first term, second term, third term, and fourth term. So I have 4 terms. It's x squared and then 5x and then plus 2x and then minus 10. Now for the first two terms, I will look for what is common between the first two terms, which is x. You discover here you have x, and you discover here you also have x, which means that x is common here. You can find x here, you can also find x here. So x is common between x squared and 5x. So that which is common, you bring it out of the bracket, outside the bracket. So you put the x outside the bracket. Now, so what is left now in the bracket? If I move x here, and one of the x here keep outside the bracket, what is left is 1x, so I put the 1x, the remaining x here. If I remove what's x, the x that is here, bring outside the bracket, what's now left is minus 5 here. So if I factorize the first two terms, what I have is x over bracket, x minus 5. So to factorize means to put in bracket. To expand means to remove bracket. Factorize is to introduce a bracket, and to expand means to remove the bracket. So I have brought out the x that is common between here. And I go out the next two terms. In this term and this term, what is common? You can see there's x here, but there's no x here. So the x here, no x here, so that tells you. Okay, so you see that I've been able to get two numbers that when you multiply will give you minus 10, and where you are not multiplying will give you minus 3. And we have been able to get those two numbers to be minus 5 and plus 2, where minus 5 and plus 2 can give us minus 10 when we multiply, and can give us minus 3 when we say minus 5 plus 2, because minus 5 plus 2 is minus 3. So it can give us minus 3 when we say minus 5 plus 2. Then it gives us minus 10 when we say minus 5 times plus 2. So I've got those two numbers. Those two numbers, which is minus 5 and plus 2, now replace the minus 3x that was here. So those two numbers replace the minus 3x that was here. That's why in the place of minus 3x, I'm now having minus 5x plus 2x to start in the place of minus 3x. And this minus comes down, and 10 comes down, and then equal to 0 comes down. At this point, you see what I did here. The first, we now have 4 terms here, where you have first term, second term, third term, and fourth term. Okay, the first two terms are x squared and minus 5x. The second two terms are plus 2x and minus 10. From the first two terms, I will bring out what is common, look for what is common. You can see in the first term I have x squared, and in the second term I have also x. So it means I can find x in the second term and find x in the first term. So it means you have x in both first and second term. So x is common in both first and second term. And since x is common in both first and second term, I will bring out the x outside the bracket. I brought out the x outside the bracket. So now the x is in the bracket. So when I bring out x from the first term outside the bracket, the remaining x comes inside the bracket. In the second term also, if I bring out x outside the bracket, what's left is minus 5. That one comes into the bracket. Now going to the second two terms, that is the 10 and the fourth term. The second two terms is 2x and then minus 10. Now 2x and minus 10, I looked for what was common between 2x and minus 10. Now I saw that in 2x there is x, but in 10 there's no x. Because there's no x, it means x is not common in both the third and the fourth term. So x is not common, so what then is common? Then I discovered that 2, this is 2 in the third term, and that 2 can go into 10. Since 2 can go into 10 here, and there is also 2 here, it means 2 is common in the third term and in the fourth term. So because 2 is common in the third and the fourth term, I'll bring out that 2 which is common outside the bracket. I brought out the 2 which is common outside the bracket. And if you bring out 2 from 2x, what's left is x, so you keep the x inside the bracket. If 2 goes into 10, what you have is 5, so you bring the 5 inside the bracket, minus 5 inside the bracket, then you bring down your equal to and 0. Remember, 2 things in quadratic equation. What you have in the first bracket must be the same as what you have in the second bracket. So if I have x minus 5 in the first bracket, I expect also that in the second bracket, what I will have is x minus 5. What's in the first bracket is always the same as what's in the second bracket. If it's not the same, no, you are wrong. Take note of that. Secondly, also take note that when you expand this level at this stage, by the time you expand this, you should get exactly what is, here. You get exactly what's here. So if I expand this bracket, I should have exactly what's here. If I don't have exactly what's here, then that means there's something wrong. So you can see this one that is here. X times x will give me x squared. X times 5 will give me 5x. So x times minus 5 is minus 5x. X times x squared. So if I open this bracket, I have exactly what is here. Then for the second bracket as well, if I open it, I should have exactly what's here. So plus 2 times x gives me plus 2x. And then plus 2 times minus 5 will give me minus 10. So if I open this, I get exactly what's here. So that means I'm in order. Then here, equal to 0. So when you're solving quadratic equation, always make sure that what's in the first bracket is always the same as what's in the second bracket. 2, when you open the bracket, it should be the same as what you have here. Now in the next step, we create 2 brackets. In the 2 brackets here, in the first bracket, we will look for what is outside the bracket here. Now if you look at this, you see that what are things outside the bracket? X is outside the bracket, what else is outside the bracket? Plus 2 is outside the bracket. Those things that are outside the bracket, you can bring them and put them inside the first bracket, which is x and plus 2. So you have x and plus 2. X plus 2 stays in the first bracket. Okay, will be in one of the brackets, maybe the first or second. Then again, what is in the brackets? In this case, you do the same thing. You have 2 brackets and they all have the same thing inside. So you bring one of them and put in the second bracket. So what's outside the bracket takes one bracket. What is inside the bracket takes the second bracket. So that you now have x plus 2 on the bracket, x minus 5 on the bracket, then equals to 0. Now, at this point now, what I'm going to do is, since we have 2 brackets, I will equate the first bracket to 0, so that I have x plus 2 equal to 0. And then I'm doing the same thing for the second bracket. Equate the second bracket to 0, so that I have x minus 5 equal to 0. So what did I do? I just simply took the first bracket, equated it to 0. Took the second bracket also, equated it to 0, so that I have this and I have this. My work is to find x. So I'm going to make x standard. So I have x. At this point now I have x plus 2 equal to 0, and I have x minus 5 equal to 0. So I'm going to make x standard here. So for x standard it means I'm going to take 2 to the other side, so that x stays in. So x here, if 2 goes to the other side, becomes minus 2. So you have 0 minus 2. So x equals to 0 minus 2. 0 minus 2 is minus 2, so x equals to minus 2. Then if you come over here, so I want x also to stay here. So minus 5 goes to the other side and becomes plus 5. So that gives you 0 plus 5. So here x is now left alone. And so we bring this x down, we're going to equal to that 0 plus 5 gives 5. So what that means is that x is equal to minus 2 and x is equal to 5. So I have x, therefore, is equal to minus 2 and x equal to 5. So x equal to minus 2 and 5. Quadratic equations usually have 2 answers. The quadratic equations usually have 2 answers. So these are my answers for factorization. Let's see if we can do the same thing. Quadratic equation has several methods of solving it. We have factorization method, completing the square method, formula method, and even graphical method. We have just used factorization method to solve this equation here. So let's solve the same equation using completing the square method. Now, let's write out that same equation, which is x squared minus 3x minus 10 equals to 0. N equals to 0. Okay, I want to solve it using completing the square method. Now, in completing the square method, we have the c goes over to the other side. The terms that have x stay on one side. The term without x goes to the other side. So you can see you have x squared, you have minus 3x, and you have minus 10. 10 is without an x here, visible x. There's x, and there's no visible x here. The one without x, that is a 10, that's minus 10, goes to the other side. So that I have x squared minus 3x. And if 10 goes as a 10 goes to the other side, what you have is 0 plus, it becomes plus. If it crosses over, it becomes plus. So what I have is 0 plus 10 on the right hand side, and on the left hand side I have x squared minus 3x at the left hand side. So of course, 0 plus 10 is still 10. 0 plus 10 is still 10. Okay? Now, I'm sure you'll be wondering why I kept so much space here. It's because I want to introduce something to the left and also to the right. So I'm keeping space here because whatever I will add to the left, I will also add to the right hand side. Because now I have shifted the 10 to the other side, so this is what I have. So I have x squared minus 3x equals to 10. So I've kept space here because I want to introduce something. Okay, whatever I will introduce to the left, I will also introduce same to the right hand side. So now what am I going to introduce? That which I want to introduce, I will put plus, and then I put bracket. What I introduce to the left, I will also introduce to the right. The same thing. Okay, now what is it? The coefficient of x, remember that is our b. Our b is minus 3. Our b is the coefficient of x. That coefficient of x is what you will bring into the bracket. The coefficient of x is not 3. The coefficient of x is minus 3. So that minus 3 is what I'll bring into the bracket. Okay. Now when I bring that coefficient of x into the bracket, I will divide by 2. And then I will raise to power 2 again. Now this is the left. I will do the same thing to the right hand side. The coefficient of x, which is minus 3. That coefficient, I will divide by 2. And I will raise to power 2 again. So you will observe that the same thing I did to the right hand side is what I am doing to the left hand side. I added to the left the coefficient of x divided by 2 raised to power 2. And the same thing I'm doing to the right hand side, the coefficient of x divided by 2 raised to power 3 raised to power 2 as well. Now, I will bring down my equal to here. Now, these and these, this is raised to power 2, this is raised to power 2. I can create one bracket for them. Now, since both of them are raised to power 2, I can bring x here. And then this one, I can bring it also here. Those terms that have raised to power 2, this one's raised to power 2, I can put them inside the bracket. X raised to power 2, this one's raised to power 2. So the x can come here, then minus 3 over 2 can come inside the bracket. And because since both of them are raised to power 2, then everything is raised to power 2 as well. Okay. Now you can do your homework, you can try it, you discover that if you open this, expand this, you're going to get this back exactly. Okay. If you expand this now, you will get exactly this back. So I just simply did what? X here, this one here, minus 3x. Remember, it's carries the sign, minus 3 over 2. So the sign follows the inside, minus 3 over 2. And all together is to power 2. Then, now, somebody will say, where did this one go to? This one is not lost because the minus 3 here is not lost because when you open this bracket, the minus 3 will reappear. You will get back exactly what you have. Okay? So, now that's it for the left hand side. Then for the right, I'll bring down my 10, then plus. Now, of course, if you have minus 3 over 2 raised to power 2, what it means is that you have minus 3 over 2 times minus 3 over 2. And raised to power 2 means that thing times itself. Okay? So that you have a raised to power 2 means you have a times a. Or if you have 1 over 2 raised to power 2, what it means you have is that you have 1 over 2 times 1 over 2. So anything raised to power 2 means that thing multiplies itself. So the same thing here, if you have minus 3 over 2 raised to power 2. Minus 3 over 2 raised to power 2 means you have minus 3 over 2 times minus 3 over 2. Let's see what it gives us. Minus 3 times minus 3 gives us plus 9. Why? Because minus times minus is plus. 3 times 3 is 9. And then 2 all over, multiply denominators, 2 times 2 is 4. So what that means is that all these minus 3 over 2 raised to power 2 means plus 9 over 4. Plus 9 over 4. So I have brought 3 out here, so you see how I got the plus 9 over 4. See that? Minus 3 over 2. Minus 3 over 2 raised to power 2 means minus 3 over 2 times minus 3 over 2. You multiply, you have plus 9, 2 times 2, you have 4. That's how this comes about. So now, let's proceed. Let me bring out this, which is x minus 3 over 2 raised to power 2 and equal to, I'll work on this. Notice it says that stands for 10 over 1. Any number that doesn't have a denominator, and you need to make use of the denominator becomes 1. Any number without a denominator, the denominator is 1. Okay. Now I need to bring out the denominator so I can add this fraction because this is now 10 over 1 plus 9 over 4. And then usually if you're adding fractions, LCM of 1 and 4 is 4. Okay, then 4 divided by 1 is 4. 4 times 10 is 40 plus. Then 4 divided by 4 is 1. 1 times 9 is 9. Okay, so what I have now is, open bracket, let's bring down this, which is x minus 3 over 2 raised to power 2 equal to 40 plus 9 is 49 all over 4. Good. So now at this point, it's time to remove the square here because I'm looking for x. At the end of the day, what we're looking for is x. So because I have square here, I will remove the square. And when you remove square, you square root the other side. Okay? If square goes to the other side, it becomes square root. Okay? So that means if I have x minus 3 over 2 equals to 49 over 4. The square that was here, if it goes to the right hand side, it becomes square root. Okay, so I get rid of the square here by introducing square root to the other side. Okay, so now I have x minus 3 over 2 equal to, now I have square root of 49 and 4. Square root of 49 is 7, and square root of 4 is 2. So now you see, we have square root of 49 is 7, the square root of 4 is 2. Remember, I'm looking for x, so x to stay alone. So this, for x to stay alone, this minus 3 over 2 will be taken to the right hand side, so that I have x equals to 7 over 2. If it goes to the other side, it comes plus 3 over 2. So I have x equal to 7 over 2 plus 3 over 2. If you find the LCM of 2 and 2 is 2. Okay, you see the denominators are the same, you can as well bring back one denominator and add the powers. So what I have now, therefore, is, now take note of square root. When you are putting square root, every time you are putting square root, you will introduce a plus and a minus. A plus and a minus under. Okay? Now, when you find the square root of 49 to be 7 and the square root of 4 to be 2, it comes with a plus and a minus. Okay? It comes with a plus and a minus. Now, when I took 3 to the other side, the 7 over 2 comes with a plus and a minus. Now, at this point that I'm splitting it, x equal to, at this point you're going to split it. Or you can first find the LCM and just put plus minus 7 plus 3 all over 2. Remember, if the LCM are the same, you can just bring out 1, 2, and then add the powers. Remember, this 7 comes with plus, minus, plus, and minus. Okay? So, now at this point, I'm going to split it into 2 equations. I will split it into 2 equations. Now, x equal to, you see, it comes with the 7 comes with plus and minus. So, I will split it into the first equation where I have plus 7 plus 3 all over 2. And then the second equation will now be having the minus 7 plus 3. In the first equation, I make use of the plus 7. In the second one, I make use of the minus. So that gives me minus 7 plus 3 all over 2. So don't forget, every time you put a square root, it comes with plus and minus. And that plus and minus, when you find the square root of 49, gives you 7, square root of 4 gives you 2. The plus or minus comes down with it. And even when you take this minus 3 over 2 to the other side, the plus or minus is still here. And then when you find the LCM, which is 2, the plus or minus for 7 is still here. At this point, I now split it into equation. The first equation I make use of the plus, and the second equation I make use of the minus. So when I add it now, what I will have is plus 7 plus 3 will give me 10 over 2. And then for this side, minus 7 plus 3 will give me minus 4 all over 2. So I have 10 over 2 and I have minus 4 over 2. By the time I divide, 10 divided by 2 give me 5. And then here, minus 4 divided by 2 give me minus 2. So it means I have x equal to 5 and minus 2 as my answer. So this method is completing the square method. Okay. Usually, if you're in SS1, factorization methods will start with it. And sometimes, depending on the teacher, if he decides to teach you all at once, he may decide to teach you all at once. And some teachers take completing square to SS2 and then probably formula method. That's what. So when I teach quadratic, I like to teach all the methods at the same. So you see the methods all listed. So this is factorization method and completing the square method. So you see we still have the same answer. We have 5 and minus 2. That is completing the square method. Now let's look at the last method, which is the formula method. The formula method implies formula method. Some people call it automatic formula. We use formula for it. So in the formula method, you have to know the formula. And the formula we use is x minus b plus or minus this, and then plus or minus square root sine b raised to power 2 minus 4ac all over 2a. All over 2a. For formula method, It has a formula. So if you want to solve the formula method, it means you have to know the formula. Now, you've seen ABC, I'm sure you know what A is and what B is. Okay, the question we have is this. The question we have was x squared minus 3x minus 10 equals 0. From this question, you can know what our x is. Remember, we said our A is the coefficient of x squared. And see our x squared, what's the coefficient? There's nothing there, so it means the coefficient is 1. So the coefficient of x squared is 1, so our A is 1. And then our B, we have said, is the coefficient of x. And that's the number attached to x. And the coefficient of x here is minus 3, not 3, minus 3. So our B is minus 3. And then our C here is the coefficient of x raised by 7, which is minus 10, not 10. So our C is minus 10. So you bring out the equation, bring out your A, B, and C, because those are the values you're going to put in the formula and get your answer. So now let's fix these values in the formula and get our answer. So now we have, as we got the formula, so I have x squared, x equal to minus b plus or minus, did you see? Plus or minus before square root sign. When we did quadratic and completing the square method, I told you every time you put a square root sign, you put a plus or minus before the square root sign. So that's why you're having plus or minus before square root sign. Okay, then you have b squared, and then minus 4ac, then all over 2a. So now, this one, all we do is substitute the values. So we have minus b, b. This is supposed to be b. It's supposed to be minus b. So our b, remember, is minus 3. So in place of b, I will clean b and put minus 3. So you can decide to put it in bracket like that. Okay, where this is the minus, and now b is minus 3. So take note not to just write it as minus 3, because this is wrong. If you put it at minus, this minus is the minus in the formula, and this 3 is b, it means you're saying b is 3. So you take note with the signs. Our b is minus 3. So I am putting minus 3 and not just 3. So that's our minus b. Minus is here, b is this. Plus minus, bring down your plus, minus, then your square root sign, bring down the square root sign. Our b, I'm supposed to have b raised to 2 next, right? Remember, b is minus 3. b is minus 3. So in place of b, I am putting minus 3. So you can put it in bracket like this. Then the next is minus. Then you have 4. Bring down your 4. Your a, I'm supposed to have, of course, when you say 4ac. When you write 4ac, what it also means is 4 times a times c. Take note of that. Just like in maths, if you have 2a, 2a actually means 2 times a. Okay? So our a here is 1. So in place of a, I can put 1. Okay? In place of c, our c is minus 10. So in place of c, I can put minus 10. Now, if you don't put it like this, you can as well just also write it as 4 times 1 times minus 10. Our 4, see here, our A is 1 and our C is minus 10. Okay, so all over 2A, you bring down your 2 here, and your A, 2A means 2 times A. Our A is 1, so put down your 1 here. Okay, so then we go to the next stage. Now, of course, this is minus 3. So minus times minus, which is plus. So that gives you plus 3, which is just 3. And plus or minus, you bring the plus or minus down. Then you put your square root sign. Now, minus 3 raised to power 2. Look at it here. Minus 3 raised to power 2 means minus 3 times minus 3. Minus 3 times minus 3. When minus times minus is plus, 3 times 3 is 9. So that tells us minus 3 raised to power 2 is plus 9, which I can still write as 9. Remember, if I write 9 like this, it means plus 9. Then here you have minus 4 times 1. Minus 4 times 1. Minus 4 times 1 is still minus 4. Then minus 4 times minus 10. Minus 4 times minus 10. See, I'm bringing it out so you see the way I'm multiplying the signs as well. Minus 4 times minus 10. Minus times minus is plus. 4 times 10 is 40. So that means I have plus 40. Okay, so I don't need this elements. Okay, so 40. So minus 4 times 1 is minus 4. Minus 4 times minus 10 is plus 40. Because minus multiply minus give plus. Okay, then all over 2 times 1 is 2. All right, so at this point as well, I'll bring down my 3. Plus or minus, bring it down. Your square root sign, bring it down. 9 plus 4 gives you 49. Okay, then all over the 2, bring it down. So the next step, so You have 3, bring down your 3, plus or minus, bring it down. Square root of 49 is 7, bring down your 7. All over, bring down your all over 2. So what that means is you have 3 plus, what you have is you have, at this point, I would rather split at this point. Now, when you have plus or minus, it means you're going to make use of the plus and then you also make use of the minus. So you will split it into 2 equations, where the first one will be 3 plus 7 over 2. That is making use of the plus. And 3 minus 7 equals to 2, making use of the minus down here. So 3 plus 7 gives us 10 all over 2. And then 3 minus 7 gives you minus 4 all over 2. At the end of the day, 10 divided by 2 gives you 5. And then you have minus 4 divided by 2 gives you minus 2. So our answer, therefore, x equals to 5 and minus 2. That's our answer. That's our x. Okay. So these are the methods of solving quadratic equation. The first, factorization; second, complete square method; and the third, formula method. For the formula method, you can see you need to be familiar with the formula. If you miss anything in the formula, of course you will not get the same and correct answer. If you miss even a sign in the formula, the answer is going to be wrong. So you have to be sure that the formula you're using is correct formula. Okay, remember to like this channel and stay tuned to this channel for more